The old man scanned groceries slower than anyone else at Fairway Market. His hands shook. His speech stuttered. Teenagers mimicked him. Managers gave him the worst shifts. Most customers just changed lines when they saw him. But one Monday morning, after a customer shouted in his face and called him a waste of space, the store's loudspeaker buzzed, and what followed made the entire town stop what they were doing. Cameras turned. Phones dropped. And nobody ever looked at him the same again. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to like the video. Fairway Market sat on the edge of Bellwood, a small town in upstate New York where everyone knew everyone's business, except, perhaps, Mr. Donnelly's. He worked register for. Always register for. A wiry man in his late 70s with watery blue eyes and posture just short of crumbling. His navy apron barely fit over his hunched shoulders. Most days, you could find him slowly double-bagging eggs and bread with a precision that frustrated customers but never cracked. "Dude, he's still on the same order," whispered Logan, a high school junior stocking energy drinks. "Guy needs to retire already," added Tanya from produce, rolling her eyes. Even the store manager, Cliff, had given up rotating him. "Let him keep register for," he'd muttered once. "Just don't schedule him weekends." No one knew his first name. His name tag simply read Donnelly. He rarely spoke. If he did, it was with awkward pauses, as if the words had to fight their way through thick fog before reaching his mouth. The only sound that came easily was his quiet, "Thank you for shopping with us," always said with a polite nod, even if the customer had just scowled at him. Donnelly never clocked in late, never missed a shift. But he also never joined staff lunches, never stayed when the others joked around after hours, and never once brought up anything personal. "Probably some weird loner," customers whispered. "Maybe he's just slow," a college girl once said, watching him fumble with the card machine. He heard every word. He always did. He just never reacted. Until the Monday after Thanksgiving. It started like any other shift. A chill wind rattled the glass doors of the store. Donnelly stood behind register 4, sleeves rolled neatly, scanning cans of cranberry sauce and dented boxes of stuffing someone had picked up on clearance. That's when the man appeared. Tall, early 40s, loud, Bluetooth headset in one ear, tapping his fingers impatiently as Donnelly slowly placed each item in bags. "You serious?" the man barked. "What? They got you out of the nursing home for this." Tanya and Logan froze near the in-cap display. A hush fell around the checkout lanes. Donnelly didn't flinch. He kept scanning. Slow, methodical. "Move it, Grandpa," the man snapped, grabbing the bags himself. "Why don't you just quit already? Let someone useful take your job." For the first time, Donnelly looked up. His eyes met the man's. Pale blue, unblinking. And then, the store intercom cracked. "Attention all staff, code 74 at register 4. Code 74? No one had heard that code before. Not even Cliff. The next 5 minutes would change everything. At first, no one moved. The intercom clicked off with a sharp pop, and for a moment, silence gripped the aisles like a held breath. Customers looked up from their carts. One child dropped a box of cereal. Tanya whispered, "What's code 74? Logan just shook his head, eyes fixed on Donnelly, who now stood motionless, one hand resting lightly on the edge of the conveyor belt. The man who'd yelled at him was still muttering to himself, stuffing receipt paper into his coat pocket, unaware that the store had just shifted into another gear. Then came the sound. Boots. 6 of them. Fast. Measured. From the staff entrance at the back, 3 men in dark blue polos with silver security badges entered in perfect formation. Not store security, these guys wore headsets, wrist-mounted scanners, and moved like they had been trained elsewhere. The lead man was tall, with a trimmed gray beard and sharp, searching eyes. He didn't ask questions. He walked straight to register 4. "Sir," he said to Donnelly, his tone calm but deliberate. "Are you all right?" Donnelly's gaze didn't move. "I'm fine, Samuel." Logan blinked. Tanya's jaw fell slightly. Did he just call him by name? The man nodded once. "Copy that. You triggered the old code." Base thought something might have gone wrong. "Base?" The customer who had just berated Donnelly scoffed. "What is this? Some kind of prank? All this over a bag boy?" The security man, Samuel, turned. He didn't raise his voice, but something in his eyes made the customer take a full step back. "Sir, you may want to step aside." The man started to speak again, but Samuel stepped closer. "You just verbally assaulted a former operations advisor from Joint Task Force 9. If you understood the gravity of what that means, you'd be asking for forgiveness, not attention." What "What are you talking about?" the man stammered. "If this makes you angry," said a woman watching nearby, "type respect in the comments." Someone else had started recording. You could hear her breath catch on the mic as she whispered, "He was military?" Meanwhile, customers began to murmur. A woman in a wheelchair whispered something to her teenage daughter. A middle-aged man quietly stepped out of line, walking over to Donnelly and placing a hand on the counter. "Thank you, sir." Whatever it was, thank you. Donnelly didn't react, but his hand, still resting on the belt, curled slightly into a fist, then relaxed. He exhaled once, slow. "Clear the lane," Samuel said to the other two men. They moved instantly. The aisle emptied. The crowd parted. And in walked Cliff, the store manager, his face a mix of confusion and barely concealed panic. What's going on?" he asked. "Code 74 isn't even on our list anymore." Samuel handed him a card. It was deactivated 20 years ago, at Mr. Donnelly's request, but it's still wired through the federal grid. Store policy doesn't override military protocol. Cliff's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Donnelly spoke, finally, with that same soft voice. "I told you not to worry about me. I can handle it, but I won't be insulted in silence again." Samuel nodded, then turned toward the cameras. "We'll take a statement later," he said, more to the crowd than to anyone in particular. "For now, we advise all present to continue shopping. And remember, there are stories you don't know. Have you ever misjudged someone, only to realize later they carried more strength than you imagined? How did that change you?" Donnelly removed his apron, folded it carefully, set it down. Then, without another word, he walked out the front door. The cold wind caught the edge of his jacket, revealing something pinned to the inside flap. A patch. Faded. Maroon and gold. Joint Task Force 9. Logan stepped out from behind the soda display, whispering, "What the hell just happened?" Tanya didn't answer. She couldn't. Because her phone buzzed, someone had already uploaded the video. And in the thumbnail, the old man stood like a wall against a storm. Have you known someone like that? Someone who carries others quietly, without asking for thanks? Share their story, because even when the world forgets, we remember. Subscribe to us for more stories that still matter. By 4:35 p.m., the video had been reposted 112 times. By 5:10, it had 78,000 views. By 6 o'clock, the mayor's office called the store asking who had authorized a federal response to a bagging incident. But Donnelly didn't know any of that. He was already back in his small one-bedroom apartment 2 blocks from the market, sitting at the kitchen table with a chipped coffee mug and an unopened letter addressed to S. Donnelly. Postmarked from Colorado. Handwritten. He didn't touch it. Not yet. Not today. Meanwhile, Fairway Market was coming undone. Cliff stood in the staff break room, replaying the security feed on loop. It showed Donnelly's face at the moment the insult was delivered. That calm. That steadiness. Then it showed the security team arriving within minutes. Code 74. "It's real," he whispered. "It's actually real." Downstairs, Tanya was pacing behind the bakery display, muttering, "He talked to that agent like they were equals. Like they knew each other." Logan, who had pulled early TikTok duty by sharing the moment with a heavy metal track under it, was now staring at his screen in a kind of horror. "Oh man, my post is blowing up." "You posted it?" Tanya asked, rounding on him. "I didn't know he was military." Logan barked back. I don't know, he just bags groceries." He double-scanned cereal. From somewhere down aisle 7, an elderly customer murmured, "That man used to walk my groceries home in the rain. Never asked for a tip." She clutched a can of peaches to her chest. "You kids don't know what kindness looks like anymore. If you believe respect shouldn't wear out with time, type respect." The store was tense. Customers lingered, hoping to hear more. Whispers moved like static through every checkout. Everyone had a story suddenly. "My dad said there was a guy like him in Iraq, never said his name. But he called him the anchor," said a veteran shopping for soup. "My uncle swore someone saved his whole unit in Kuwait," a teenage girl added. "Never said who. Just said the guy didn't talk much, but knew things." The most unexpected reaction came from little Rami Jenkins, age 8, who sat cross-legged by the gumball machine, drawing with crayons on a paper napkin. When his mom asked what he was doing, he said simply, "Drawing Mr. Donnelly," but with his real armor on. By nightfall, the town had divided into 2 groups, those who still didn't understand what they'd seen, and those who suddenly felt ashamed they hadn't seen it sooner. Back in Donnelly's apartment, the lights were dim. The old man sat in his recliner, sipping cold coffee, eyes closed. On the shelf above his modest fireplace sat only 3 items. 1. A small wooden box with a Navy insignia. 2. A faded black and white photo of a much younger Donnelly, flanked by men in desert camo, grinning despite the dust. 3. And a framed citation signed by a name most civilians wouldn't recognize, but every Tier 1 operator would never forget. Donnelly opened one eye as the apartment phone rang. He let it ring once, twice, then picked it up. A voice on the other end spoke just 3 words. "You all right, sir?" Donnelly smiled faintly. "Yeah, just didn't think anyone would remember. If this makes you angry, type respect in the comments." That night, Cliff received a direct call from someone claiming to represent a non-public federal agency. They didn't give a name, just a request. Reinstate Mr. Donnelly to full-time. No weekends. No interference. What? Why? Cliff asked. The line was quiet for a beat. Then, because you've had a guardian on register for the past 6 years and didn't even know it. The call ended. In the days that followed, customers began doing something they'd never done before. They waited for his line. They let him skin slow. They asked questions. Some didn't speak. They just nodded, the way soldiers do when they recognize someone who's walked the same hard ground. Have you ever misjudged someone, only to realize they carried more strength than you imagined? How did that change you? But the truth, what Donnelly had really done, was still buried. Until someone made a mistake. A photo. An online article. A name that should never have been public. And with it came danger. The article appeared quietly, almost like it was trying not to be noticed. Buried in the sidebar of a military news blog. No author name. No comments allowed. Just a headline. Could this grocery clerk be Whiskey One? It had no photo at first. Just a grainy screenshot from the Fairway Market security feed, heavily redacted. But the few who had ever heard that codename, Whiskey One, didn't need a clearer image. And by the time the article was quietly taken down 3 hours later, it had already been archived, reposted, and translated. Cliff found it by accident. He'd been searching how to publicly apologize to a veteran without sounding self-serving. The second he saw the article, he dropped his coffee. "Oh no," he whispered. Because Cliff remembered something now. Something he hadn't told anyone. 3 years ago, corporate had flagged Donnelly for being too slow. They wanted him gone. Cliff had filled out the termination form but never filed it. That night, a man in a black SUV had parked outside his house. Hadn't knocked. Hadn't said a word. Just waited. And somehow, Cliff had gotten the message. Let the old man keep working. Now that man was about to be exposed. By noon, Fairway Market was surrounded not by protesters or cameras, but by cars. Customers, former military, strangers. They stood in the parking lot without signs, without noise. Just standing, waiting, silent. Inside, Donnelly was already back at register 4, his hands steady, his voice unchanged. Good morning. Paper or plastic? A young man in a hoodie placed a single bottle of water on the belt. He didn't say anything at first. Just watched Donnelly work. Then, quietly, "Sir, were you in Solder City in 2007? Donnelly didn't look up. Just scanned the bottle. The kid's voice cracked. Because someone pulled me out of a collapsed roof after the second blast. I never saw his face. Just hands. And a patch. Silence stretched between them. Then Donnelly reached over and tapped total. "Thank you for shopping with us," he said. The kid nodded, eyes glassy, and left. If you believe those who sacrificed for others deserve to be honored every day, subscribe to us. Because quiet heroes never stop serving. Meanwhile, Logan sat behind the meat counter, frantically deleting his original post. "It wasn't supposed to go viral like this," he muttered. Tanya raised an eyebrow. "You put a hashtag on it that said, 'Old man vs. jerk.' What did you think was going to happen?" Logan didn't answer. But they weren't the only ones watching. In a black sedan parked across the street, 2 men in civilian clothes monitored the store entrance. "Confirm facial," said the driver, tapping the dashboard screen. "Run it through GolfNet." "Already did," replied the passenger. "It's him." He exhaled. "Whiskey One. Still walking. Still working." The driver frowned. "Should we notify Phoenix Protocol?" "No," came the reply. "He hasn't made contact. He just wants to be left alone." A pause. But someone else just got off a plane in Albany. Someone who's not going to leave him alone. That evening, Donnelly found something strange. His mailbox wasn't empty. Inside was a single envelope. No return address. He opened it. Inside, one thing, a photograph. Faded. Torn. A little girl in a red dress. standing between two Marines. One of them, young, strong, sharp-eyed, was him. And on the back, scrawled in unfamiliar handwriting. You left something behind. Have you ever witnessed someone punished for an act of kindness? If so, share a small word of gratitude in the comments. Even just a name is enough to keep light in our lives. Donnelly's fingers trembled slightly as he folded the photo back into the envelope. He didn't sleep that night, because he knew exactly who had sent it, and what was coming next. Donnelly stood in his kitchen, unmoving. The photo lay on the table, its corners curling upward like it was trying to return to the past. The girl's face. He hadn't seen her in decades, not since Fallujah. The walls around him felt tighter now. The soft hum of the refrigerator was too loud. The clock ticked too slow. He pulled a worn chair from the table and sat down, pressing the photo flat with both hands. Not out of aggression, just to steady himself. Her name was Amina. She was 7 the day their convoy stopped at the school. The day Donnelly broke protocol again, because children were supposed to be safe. And the decision he made then had cost him 2 men, and saved 15. But afterward, they couldn't find her. Her family had vanished during a retaliatory sweep by insurgents. Intel said she'd been taken. Then silence. For years. Until now. The photograph meant one thing. Someone had her. Or wanted Donnelly to think they did. He turned the envelope over again. No fingerprints. No postmark. Delivered by hand. He stepped to the window, pulling the curtain slightly. A black car idled near the alley. Lights off. No movement. Someone was watching. Waiting. Back at Fairway Market, the customers had thinned out, but tension still lingered like smoke. Every staff member was quieter. They spoke in half-sentences. Like the store had become holy ground they didn't deserve. That's when the woman arrived. She wore a red wool coat. No makeup. Hair tied back. Early 40s. She walked with purpose, not arrogance, like someone who'd memorized the store layout decades ago and didn't need to look for signs. She stepped into Donnelly's line without a cart, without groceries. Good afternoon, he said, his voice the same measured calm. You don't recognize me, she said. Donnelly froze, scanning her face. Then, softly, Amina. She nodded. His hand reached for the counter's edge. Not from weakness. From weight. Memory weight. She pulled out a small cloth pouch and set it on the belt. Inside was a medal. Foreign. Engraved in Arabic. You gave me this before they took me away. Said it was for strength. Donnelly nodded, jaw tight. I thought you were gone. I was, she said. Until I found someone who remembered your name. Until the article. Behind her, the line had stopped moving. Logan stood frozen by the end cap. Tanya slowly turned off the bakery oven. I've been waiting to ask you something, Amina said. Donnelly looked up. His eyes clear now. Brighter. She leaned closer, her voice low. Why did you risk your life for me? Donnelly didn't blink. Because you were the only one not holding a weapon that day. Everyone else had already chosen a side. A single tear escaped down Amina's cheek. They told me you were dead. Sometimes, he said quietly, that's easier. What moment in your life did justice arrive late but sweet? Share it in the comments. She pulled a folded document from her coat, slid it across the counter. They were right to keep your name secret. But the wrong people know now. And they're looking. Donnelly didn't need to ask who. He just looked at the letterhead. Embassy seal. Security clearance. I'm not hiding anymore, he said. But I'm not leaving either. I figured, she smiled. Donnelly glanced down at the cloth pouch. Keep this, he said. You still need strength. Amina nodded. So do you. Outside, the black car was gone. But by nightfall, someone else would come. Not for groceries. Not for peace. Bellwood didn't know it was being watched. Not in the way satellites watched. Not in the way government agencies watched. No, this was older. Deeper. A different kind of surveillance. The kind that didn't use drones or wiretaps but memories and debt. At 2:12 a.m., a silver rental car passed quietly through town, its windows dark, its license plate unregistered. It stopped once, just once, outside the small brick apartment where Donnelly lived above the tailor's shop. Inside the car, a man in his 50s studied the building like it was a wound he couldn't stop touching. His face was pale, eyes too alert. He wore no insignia, no badge. But the creases on his knuckles told stories no civilian would understand. In his pocket was a laminated folder with a label burned into it. Building 4, Level S. He stepped out and walked to the door. Donnelly had been sitting in the dark, awake for hours, the envelope still on the table, the photo inside untouched. He didn't sleep much anymore. He couldn't. His body was tired, but his mind kept playing old sounds, helicopter rotors, foreign shouting, the pop and crack of distant fire. So when the knock came, he didn't startle, didn't flinch. He just said quietly, "Come in." The man entered. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Donnelly leaned forward. "Took you long enough." "Traffic," the man replied. "And the fact you used code 74. That set off bells all the way to Langley." "I was provoked," Donnelly said, deadpan. "Bagging groceries is dangerous work these days." The man didn't laugh. He never did. He stepped inside, closed the door, and locked it. Not because he didn't trust Donnelly, but because others were listening. "You've been made," he said. "The article, the footage, the girl." "Woman," Donnelly corrected. "She was never supposed to find you." Donnelly stood, slowly. His back stiffened by years, his legs slower now, but there was still a coil of strength in him. "None of us were supposed to survive, remember?" The man flinched. "A rare thing." "They're mobilizing," he said finally. "We've picked up chatter. Old enemies, mercenary assets, 2 confirmed leaks in Eastern Europe. All looking for one thing. Me. No. Her. But they'll come through you." Donnelly turned to the window. "Then let them. You're 76 years old. I've had worse odds. Have you known someone like that? Someone who carries others quietly, without asking for thanks?" Share their story in the comments. We remember. Always. The man from Building 4 pulled a small, metal case from his coat. Set it on the table. "You know what this is?" Donnelly nodded. He did. It was his. His emergency cash. A black keycard. A coin. And a flash drive that, if plugged into the wrong machine, would light up the Intel community like a Christmas tree in Berlin. He didn't reach for it. "I'm not going back into the field. You might not have a choice." Donnelly looked up. There's always a choice. Back at Fairway Market, something strange had happened. The next morning, customers arrived early. Too early. They stood outside before the sun came up, forming a quiet line. When Cliff arrived and unlocked the doors, he stepped back in confusion. Are you all here for Black Friday?" he asked nervously. An older woman stepped forward. "No. We're here for him." Inside, Tanya was already setting up register 4. She wiped it down twice, laid out Donnelly's apron, stood at attention. Logan pulled up a stool beside the register. "I'm not working today," he told Cliff. "I'm just here, in case he needs help." And behind them, taped to the wall near the time clock, someone had printed out the viral photo. The one with Donnelly standing tall as security arrived. Above it, scrawled in red marker. "He's been standing for US for 50 years. Now we stand for him. If this makes you angry, type respect in the comments." But Donnelly wasn't coming in that morning. Because something was already moving toward Bellwood. Something that knew how to find ghosts. And how to turn them into leverage. The storm didn't announce itself. It crept in under the skin of Bellwood like a fever, quiet, persistent, invisible to those who didn't know how to listen. At 3:43 a.m., a silent drone passed over the water tower, its camera trained not on the police station, nor the courthouse, but on a tiny second-story apartment above the tailor's shop. It hovered exactly 8 seconds before disappearing into the tree lane. By 4 a.m., 3 cars, none registered, none marked, were parked along the outer streets. Their engines never turned off. They never moved. Inside one of them sat a woman with short silver hair and a handheld scanner glowing green. Her name wasn't on any government roster, but her voice, when recorded in past Intel intercepts, had been labeled with a code name, Osprey. She spoke once into the receiver. "Target likely aware. Exfil plan compromised. Requesting override." No reply came, because someone had already shut the signal down. Back in the apartment, Donnelly stood over the small metal case, the one the man from Building 4 had left. He hadn't opened it yet. Instead, he'd spent the last 2 hours quietly rearranging the apartment. Not to defend it, not to booby-trap it, to erase himself from it. A framed photo came down. A mug was placed back into its box. The shelf of worn books, mostly histories of obscure conflicts, was wiped clean. He packed in silence, movements precise, deliberate, practiced. But then he paused. There, on the counter, still untouched, lay the envelope Amina had delivered. He picked it up again. This time, he opened it. Inside was a satellite photo. Blurry. Zoomed in. The girl in the red coat again, but older now, in a refugee camp just outside Sulaymaniyah. Dated 4 months ago. Encircled in red ink. Asset number 12. Presumed living. Witnessed Whiskey 1. They weren't after him. They were after what she remembered. And she remembered everything. At 6:15 a.m., Amina stood on the pedestrian bridge outside town, wrapped in a second-hand parka, waiting. She clutched the cloth pouch Donnelly had returned to her. She'd known this would happen. Known the second she showed her face, others would follow. But she also knew she couldn't hide anymore. Not while he stood alone. Then she heard it. Boots. Behind her. Not loud. Measured. Military. She turned and froze. Not Donnelly. The woman from the black car. Osprey, Amina whispered. The woman smiled slightly. You remember. You're not supposed to be here. Neither are you. Then Osprey lifted her hand. Inside her palm lay a thin silver chip. Where's the key? She asked. I don't have it, Amina said. That's too bad. Suddenly, Osprey's smile disappeared. Because someone else had stepped onto the bridge behind her. Donnelly. And in his right hand was the black keycard. You always came in sideways, he said calmly. Never through the front door. Osprey didn't move. But her hand dropped to her belt. You're going to stop this? She asked, almost mocking. Donnelly's voice was steady. You're not leaving with her. Not today. Then I suppose we're out of diplomacy. You never brought it, he replied. The silence that followed was worse than shouting, because it meant they both understood what came next. But then, I served under a man like that, someone commented. He never talked. He just acted. Respect. Back in town, Cliff had turned on the old radio behind the counter for the first time in years. Not music. Not news. Just static. Until it shifted faintly. A voice, coded but familiar. Return protocol initiated. All nodes alert. Cliff's fingers shook. He remembered that voice. It had been 20 years since anyone used it. And it meant only one thing. They were waking up the others. The bridge held its breath. Osprey's fingers hovered just above her belt, but her eyes didn't blink. She was calculating an exit, an angle, a lie. But Donnelly had already moved closer, closing her window. Not fast. Just inevitable. Behind him, Amina stood still, heart racing, fingers clenched tight around the cloth pouch. She wanted to run, to scream, but the silence between the two of them, between predator and predator, held her frozen. Then Osprey smirked. You think you're still that man? I don't have to be, Donnelly replied. I just have to remind them. And from behind Amina, a sound rose. Engines. 6 of them. Low. Measured. Black SUVs. No markings. No hesitation. The kind of arrival no civilian sees without something changing forever. They stopped at either end of the bridge. Doors opened. Men and women stepped out. Older. Some limping. Some scarred. All silent. All watching. One of them saluted. Another simply nodded. Whiskey one. They had come not for orders, but for memory. For a promise made long ago. If the light ever flickers, we come home. Osprey turned. She understood now. She was outnumbered. Outhistoried. Outlived. You'll have to answer for this, she said, voice low. So will you, Donnelly said. But not here. Not in my town. The next morning, the sun rose over Bellwood with an unusual stillness. Fairway Market opened at 7 a.m. sharp. Line out the door. No specials. No decorations. Just a simple sign in the front window. Register for, open. Donnelly walked in wearing his old apron. The same one. Folded neatly in his arms. Tanya helped him tie it. Logan said nothing. He just set a fresh roll of register tape in the drawer and stood aside. Customers didn't crowd him. They didn't film. They just waited. Each placed their items gently on the belt. No rush. No small talk. One woman left a folded note beside her eggs. You taught my son how to stand tall without ever raising your voice. A child handed him a drawing. Donnelly looked down. It was him, again, but in armor. Full armor. Not with a weapon. With a grocery bag. At 9:30 a.m., Cliff got a call. Not from corporate. From the Pentagon. He didn't answer right away. He just stared at the caller ID, hands trembling. When he finally picked up, the voice on the other end said, No more surveillance. No more activation. He is home. Let it be. By noon, Donnelly was back behind register 4, scanning slowly. Deliberately. One item at a time. As if every barcode was a memory. A life. A lesson. And when the final customer of the day stepped forward, a young veteran in uniform, head bowed, Donnelly simply nodded. No thanks needed. No recognition sought. Just a bag. A receipt. And the same quiet words. Thank you for shopping with us. If it moved you to, type respect in the comments. If you like this story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let YouTube promote stories of kindness.